All the big cities in ancient Greece had that one special trait to set it apart. Olympia hosted the big games, Delphi had the oracle, Sparta cultivated buff dudes and systematic self-oppression in equal measure, and Athens, most famously of all, had democracy. Yes, Δημοκρατία, the system of government where the people have the power, the glorious start of the Athenian Golden Age, and one of the Greek world's most consequential contributions to human society, basically happened by accident. Now, that's not to say that it was some unintentional mistake they clumsily stumbled into, as hilarious and frankly in character as that would be, but rather the creation of Athenian democracy was a much lengthier and more complex process than the Athenians would have you believe. According to their folk traditions and drinking songs, democracy was born in a single moment of excellence when Harmodios and Aristogiton killed the tyrant Hipparchus, freeing the people of Athens to live as equals under the law forever after. Great work, team, let's get drunk. That's the story they told themselves and the rest of Greece, but luckily for us, we know that the Athenians are sneaky little liars we can't trust for shit. These are the same guys who claim they're so amazing that gods were literally fighting to be their patron. Cool myth? Maybe cool it on the ego. Now, the real story of democracy isn't as glamorous, but is quite illuminating. A winding century-long tale of reforms, civil strife, tyrants, assassins, an invading army, and a little more civil strife leading to the birth of democracy in 508 BC. Hard fought, well earned. It's a story that could have played out anywhere in Greece, yet it only happened in Athens, so we do tragically have to give them some credit. But as we investigate how this unique system of governance arose in dinky old Athens of all places, we'll see that democracy wasn't a gift from the Olympians above, which only the Athenians were big brain enough to handle, but a logical outcome of careful problem solving and a few lucky breaks. And as much as I hate to indulge them with more bragging material, Athenian democracy is even more impressive than we often acknowledge. So, to see how those ego-tripping madmen crafted one of the greatest systems in the history of human society, damn, they're good. Let's do some history. Our story begins in the 600s BC, where the city-state of Athens, or Athena, was completely, utterly average. Located on the Attika Peninsula, midway up the Aegean Sea, it was centrally located in the Greek world, but only peripherally important. Here at the start, Athens was a polis like every other, governed by citizens and an aristocratic elite with a flexible, unwritten constitution. One notable feature of Athenian law typical of the time was resolving disputes with endless blood feuds, as seen in the entire plot of the Oresteia. This changed in the late 600s when Draco, or Drakon, supposedly gave Athens its first formal law code. It was so famously harsh that it gives us the word draconian, but critically it turned the law from something nebulous and violent into something codified and standardized. Good start. The code soon got some tweaks in 594 when Solon was the city's archon. That meant he was in charge of the assembly for a year, and boy oh boy did he make it count by implementing a heckin' chonky program of economic and social reforms. First was the Sisakthia, the shaking off of burdens, intended to clear up long-standing debts that weighed down society by nixing the land debt and liberating citizens who were stuck in debtors' prisons. This all was paired with reforms to the citizen classes. Previously, who could serve in what role was preset by birth, but Solon now divided the classes by wealth. He came up with a whole scheme to measure how profitable your land was based on how many standardized units of wheat, oil, and wine it produced. That's some video game-ass nonsense right there, but I gotta be honest, if I was an Athenian, I would absolutely be chasing the high score in olive oil. I don't know if that would make me a filthy capitalist or a filthy gamer, and frankly, I don't know which one is worse. Now, separating out government roles by wealth class sounds very undemocratic, and it is, but ditching birthright nobility was a huge step forward, and once participation rights were set by wealth, there was legal regularity, so from there, it's not a huge leap to say, actually, all of these classes can serve in every part of government, and sure enough, that'll be exactly how we land a democracy. But we're not there yet, because after Solon's whirlwind year in power, Athens just couldn't elect a new archon, leading to a few years of literal anarchy. Anarchia. No archon. Because Athens was divided between three rival factions, the men of the plain, men of the shore, and men of the hills. For the next half-century, these regional aristocratic cliques had their run of the place, and it seemed like Solon's reforms had only weakened the state. But as with many cities in ancient Greece, civil strife was the perfect opportunity for an enterprising citizen to seize power and become a tyrannos, a tyrant. So it was in 561 when Pisistratos, one of the men of the hills, appeared in the main marketplace all roughed up, claiming to have been attacked. He asked for bodyguards, got them, and embarked upon crime, marching up the Acropolis to try and seize power by force. He was driven out of the city, so bit of a swing and a miss, but close enough that he was willing to try again. His second attempt was via a marriage alliance, but when that didn't work, he went back to his roots. Obvious lies and goofy bullshit. He found a really tall woman and dressed her up as Athena to ride into town on a chariot and proclaim Pisistratus as rightful ruler of Athens. But hold on a minute, the first source of that story is Herodotus, and I know better than to trust like that. Pisistratus was also said to have defeated his rival factions in battle at Pellene, and I feel like that's the more important item here. But one way or another, in 546, Pisistratus vanquished his opposition and took power as the sole Tyrannos of Athens. So how does this coup-throwing doofus get us any closer to democracy? Frustratingly, he was damn good at his job. See, the unsolved problem after Solon's reforms was how small, pliable, and weak the Athenian state still was. So as our boy Big P consolidates his own power, he's ruling mildly and cleverly, respecting the laws, still holding elections, and building on the reforms that Solon started. In the short term, he quelled the factional crisis, but in the long run, Athens became stronger, richer, and far more prestigious. Now this is a long list. The man was busy. First, he set up courts all across Attica's countryside to give the law more prominence beyond the city center, while improving the city itself with a big public fountain in the Agora and a new temple to Athena on the Acropolis. He financed this in part with money from the silver mines he owned in northern Greece, as well as new state-run mines down in Lavrion. Those will come in real clutch in half a century when it single-handedly funds the navy that beats the Persians. An Athenian coin struck with that silver soon circulated all over the Aegean. They didn't have that cute little owl yet, but they would, and there's no point in any of this without that goofy owl. P-Man also revamped the city's two main celebrations, the Dionysia and the Panathenea, turning the celebratory games, feasts, plays, and processions from local events into major festivals that drew revelers and athletes from across the Greek world. On the culture front, he commissioned standardized editions of the Iliad and Odyssey to circulate, which happened to be the earliest versions of the texts we have, so that alone was worth throwing the coup. Not really, but like, And with economic and cultural clout came political influence, as Big P made alliances with the tyrants of Naxos and Samos and annexed the sacred island of Delos, giving Athens a little taste of a naval empire in the Aegean Sea. But just an appetizer, banquet to follow. At the start of the century, Athens was any other small Greek city-state, but after Pisistratus, it was more prominent than ever, and the state had more identity, more authority, and more stability after 2 decades of reforms. Pi Guy was a tyrannos to be sure, but the record shows he was not tyrannical. After his death in 527, his 2 sons took charge of the city, and this takes us to our starting tale of Hipparchus getting staboed by Harmodius and Aristogeiton in 514. Yet despite what those rascal Athenians would have you believe, this was not the end of tyranny in Athens, nor the dawn of democracy, but the violent outcome of a very public rejection. See, Hipparchus made kissy faces at Harmodius, but he was already smanging Aristogeiton, and it escalated from there into literal murder during the Panathenea, after which point his brother Hippias was still ruler of Athens for another 4 years. And it was in that key interval where he really turned tyrannical, jailing, killing, exiling, and enough other dickish behavior that popular memory of the entire Pisistratid family soured into, ew, tyrants, screw those guys. Hippias was such a menace that Athens reimagined entire arcs of its history to fit how much they hated him. So if that didn't do it, how democracy? Well, Hippias was booted from power in 510 by, of literally all people, a Spartan army, interfering on the advice of the Delphic oracle. But with the tyrant gone, Athens slipped right back into old habits of factional slapfights over the power vacuum, this time between Isagoras and Clisthenes. Igai wanted K-Man banished because of a century-old curse on his family the Alcmaeonids and called the Spartans back in for help, but this time the Athenians told Sparta to get out and take Isagoras with them, leaving Clisthenes the victor. And here, in 508 BC, Clisthenes makes the reforms that finally achieve democracy. His winning strategy seems to have been invent populism. Realizing the citizens of Athens were a much larger social group than the aristocrats, he promised them new rights to align the people into a single mega-faction. First was making all adult male citizens equal participants in government regardless of property class, with specialized positions chosen by random draw for a term of 1 year. He also reorganized the Athenians into 10 tribes, each of which was subdivided into thirds, 1 group in the city, 1 inland, and 1 on the coast, making each tribe the average cross-section of all Attica. It's a little convoluted, but jumbling everything up fully broke the aristocracy's regional power bases. Then, a council of 500 was created to advise the assembly, with each tribe calling 50 of their citizens to serve on it each year. Once you served, you were out for 10 years, so everyone got their turn and nobody gets entrenched in the system. The goal of all this was to spread out the power and align everyone towards Athens as the provider of law and authority, no room for factions. And every aspect of this system reinforced reinforced each other. Each tribe is a vertical slice of Athenian society, the state is constantly rotating who's in charge with random lots instead of popularity contests, and all of that power is shared as evenly as possible. This is, frankly, an astonishing system, not just ideologically, but also as practical problem solving. Widening citizens' rights directly limits the power of aristocrats and the danger of their factions. Every citizen was on an even playing field, and the perils of stasis that the Athenians spent a century suffering from now had a far more palatable solution than tyranny. Athenian democracy wasn't magic, it was genius, forged over a long time with a lot of hard work from Cleisthenes all the way back to Draco. From 508, everything that follows in the Athenian story flows from this single moment of transformation, a change that touched every aspect of the Athenian state and every person within it. Politics, warfare, empire, philosophy, theater, the conscious creation of history, and thus my whole last job derives from this hard-fought, radical innovation. And from here, their golden age lay ahead. Athens had not yet become great, not yet terrible, and not yet glorious, but it was now, undeniably and forever, Athens. Thank you for watching. The word democracy is come from the Greek word demokratia, which is demos, people, and kratos, power. Together is mean people power. So there you go. I'm sorry, I have to do the Mr. Portocalis bit again. It's a genetic requirement I cannot refuse. In any case, I'll see you in the next video.